Mehreen Mia Cassimjee. The last time I spoke to her last week, we were talking about silencing the inner critic, and today, just continuing with that topic, we will be chatting about self-talk, silencing the inner critic, but also self-talk, like how to silence that inner critic. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sister Mehreen.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Sister Mariam?
Alhamdulillah, all good in yourself?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well too.
All right.
All of this for your birthday. Let's just carry on the birthday. How's that? For every month for the next year.
You know what, Sister Mehreen? I was thinking exactly that. Just
Yes.
about why not celebrate my birthday until the next one? I've got the whole
Celebrate
year, the rest
you
of the
all
year.
the time. Yes, of course. I say so. Chocolate cake all the time.
Yes, and I'm gonna do exactly that, but just not now. I've had too much cake already this month.
I'm sure.
All right, Bismillah.
Okay, so today we're delving into this topic of self-talk. And I think for me this is crucial because it's important for you to self-grow. It's important for your self-development. But more importantly, if you want to self-empower, you need to be able to know and recognize what is the self-talk. So yes, we spoke about that inner critic. And I even spoke about how to make the inner critic be something that's outside of you. The reason I focus on this as self-talk is because it gives you the sense of responsibility. And it gives you the sense of understanding this is the talk I have with myself. Myself talks to me about these certain things. So, without doubt, I think we know words are powerful. And as coaches and as counselors all over the place, it's the words that we use to offer comfort, to help people, to grow people. Every day, people that do affirmations, for example, what is an affirmation? It's words that you're using to help yourself. So self-talk is actually the message and the words that you use to send to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's the message you give yourself all the time. And that plays a huge part on your mental health and, of course, then your general wellness. This is why it's key to really understand this concept. And when I use the term self-talk, I'm referring to that voice. Yes, we spoke about this inner critic that we have. But remember, all the thoughts in your mind that sound like they're probably like both sides of a conversation sometimes. But that reality we need to know is that we're doing this to ourselves all the time. Sometimes we're not even aware that we're having this conversation in our minds, but it's there. And that self-talk ultimately leads to you taking some decisions. That self-talk ultimately leads to how your emotions take over or how you react to something that's happening outside of you. So if we look at this, and I want to just let everybody know, self-talk is not only negative. Self-talk is positive. Today I'm focusing on the negative self-talk because we want to end the negative. And inshallah, next week we'll touch on positive. But for today, we're focusing on this negative self-talk, the one that inhibits our progress, the one that stops us from actually making things better for ourselves.
Yeah.
And when we talk about this negative self-talk, lots of the times we know that we say it's linked to our childhood and it's linked also to some experiences that we would have had. And those things are the ones that relay these messages that are inside us and stay there. So as a child, you get to certain things and that just resonates and it grows with you and then it becomes a norm for you. And you start to try and process and you realize, wait, this actually is not what's happening, but it's inside me, so I feel bad about how I feel. And that's when the contemplation happens, well, what do I do? But I'm going to just give an analogy quickly. Let's just say there's somebody who's got an eating disorder. And most often when you have that, some of the people do group therapy to try and get through that. And let's say you're part of this group and you need to go and do an exercise where you have to write to yourself that's talking to you all the time because you're trying to curb this habit of the eating disorder that you have. And you go back to the circle, and when you go to the circle of members, so you go into your group therapy session, and your counselor has to say to you, the letter that you wrote now to yourself, find somebody in your group that identifies with what you wrote in there, and you select someone. That person then reads out that letter that you wrote to you. If you're listening to me now, ask yourself if you have to do that exercise. If you have to write to yourself, somebody has to read out what you're writing about what you tell yourself. How is it really going to resonate with you? What impact is it going to have on you? Is it toxic? Is it not toxic? And only when you're aware of what you tell yourself and then writing these down actually does help. Because sometimes it moves away from your focus. But when you're writing it down, you're actually focal and you know oh gosh, I actually say this. Do I say this to myself all the time? No way. This is what happens. It hits a reality. You hit a reality. So for now, take that minute and imagine yourself as that person in that therapy group that is listening to someone outside of them speaking and telling them this is what this letter reads and it's from your voice to you. And ask yourself, what am I going to be listening to if they read it back out to me? So if you want to put it into another way to try and understand what is the self-talk, think of yourself as somebody who is really brilliant. You have the self-esteem that's at max. You really got everything under control and you're really good at everything that you do, but you somehow just need this assistant that stays with you constantly. So you're positive and your self-esteem is up there and you're really, really good with how things go for you. But this assistant that you have is with you 24/7, constantly seems to find fault with everything that you do, everything that you say, and keeps giving you negatives about everything that's happening. This assistant of yours. And it continues and continues. So no matter how much you have the positive side of you in your mind, no matter how much self-esteem you've built up, this assistant of yours just goes on and on and on. And only thing that they do is they pick on this negative stuff about you. Eventually, this assistant is not going to go away, but the words that the assistant are going to keep throwing at you are going to somehow make you start thinking about what they say. And at some point, you're going to spiral into that negativity yourself. That's what your self-talk is actually doing to you. So in many aspects, this assistant that we're talking about now is your voice. It's your self-talking voice that's inside of you. Mm-hmm. And if you can resonate with that, you'll understand what is it that's happening inside you when you self-talk. This is that voice inside you that always is telling you you can't or you won't or whatever. And I want to know what practices we said we're going to do. Go back to the previous, maybe the podcast or what we have on Facebook and go through our steps there. But just a mind, there's also a book that comes to mind quickly that I love, and it's called The Four Agreements. And in it, the author speaks about self-talk. And he speaks about how people will actually try to analyze and reanalyze what processes are involved in what they're taking in order to have the self-talk. Now, one of the things he teaches us in that book is that he found that people, for example, if they have people around them that constantly hurl abusive words or things that are very negative that bring them down constantly, it's a given practice that if it constantly happens from outside of you, eventually it sits inside of you as a norm. And the problem is in the saying that I can't handle this anymore, it's just too much. When you get to that point is when what is happening is beyond what you actually do to yourself. So basically, if somebody is hurling these abuse things towards you, and if it's constantly affecting you, it eventually gets to a point where that abuse is something you actually give yourself, so it becomes a norm. But when you eventually get to a point where you realize it's not supposed to be this way, the change starts to take effect because you realize it's beyond your own abuse to yourself. It's beyond your own negative things to yourself. To get to that level is what's important. Because if we know that we didn't choose that belief, the point is that even though we might not have wanted those words, even though we might have felt at the time, I don't like what you're saying to me, it still resonated with me and I kept it. And at some point in that book, it teaches you, at some point you made an agreement of sorts with those words. That is the agreement that makes those words become part of those conversations your voice has with you. And that's what happened. So even if we know we didn't choose these beliefs, the point is at some point it leads to them. So we didn't choose whatever happened in our childhood. We didn't choose whatever people were doing and saying that made us have these kinds of impacts of self-talk. But we agreed to them at some level. And when you start to see that agreement that you had, you realize it's actually just an agreement. And I can actually take this away. I can get rid of it and I can redo this whole agreement so that it makes better for me and it works. The process, though, we know, is that when something becomes a norm for you, Sister Mariam, and you become so comfortable with it, when we try and change it for you, it becomes a bit edgy. It becomes frustrating at first. And then sometimes you just don't want to keep going because you know the change is not going to be good for you. You don't see it initially.
Sister
But when it comes
Mehreen, sorry to cut you off there. We need to take a quick break, but we will continue inshallah afterwards.
Sure, no problem.
After all these years, millions of Syrian refugees and displaced persons are still struggling to get adequate food and nutrition. Since 2014, the Al-Imdad Foundation's Flour for Syria campaign has provided daily bread to these Syrians. For just 5,000 Rand, you can sponsor 1 ton of flour and ensure that 10,000 pita loaves are delivered to desperate Syrian communities. Part donations are also accepted. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
With over 80 years of experience, IG Hussein and Company are renowned for their quality Islamic wear and goods. IG Hussein and Company stock a variety of Islamic items, musallas, kitabs, Medina dates, perfumes and exclusive gifts. We guarantee you a unique and friendly shopping experience for the entire family. Visit our new branch in Overport at 202 Kenilworth Park, Brickfield Road. Open 7 days a week with ample parking and wheelchair friendly. Like us on Facebook or Instagram at IG Hussein for our latest promotions and updates. IG Hussein and Company, your Islamic lifestyle.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness, and every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
You are listening to the Mario Mukonda Show on Salam Media, and thank you for staying with us. Today we are talking about self-talk with Sister Mehreen Mia Cassimjee, who is a life coach and a motivational speaker. Your thoughts are the source of your emotions and a mood. The conversations you have with yourself can be destructive or beneficial. They influence how you feel about yourself and how you respond to events in your life. Sister Mehreen, shukran for staying with us. Please continue.
Sure, no problem. So what we said, we understand now that the self-talk, the negative part of it, is obviously something that's embedded with us based on what happens through our lives, what happens as an experience that you probably have in your childhood, etc. And that's how these get created and become part of your norm. And this becomes the voice that talks to you. So even though we know that we didn't choose that belief and we didn't choose what happened, what we're trying to teach is that at some point you made an agreement that that is going to be okay with you, so it stayed there, and that's what talks to you now. And this is now what I'm relaying in terms of the book that I said I enjoy, and that really helps to understand it, and that's called the 4 agreements. This is one of the agreements that's talked about in the book. This agreement that you have with that belief structure that's negative for you, and you try and change it to make it better for yourself. So what happens is, because we conform to a norm, and we know when we try and change anything that we're comfortable with, it initially feels very edgy for us, and we're not very happy to try and change things because we like our little comfort zone sometimes. But when these realities start to hit you and you start to think to yourself, you know what, okay, I'm going to change this. I have to. Regardless of who they are and what they are, it's hurting me and I got to put a stop to it. How often is that when we changed our philosophy, when we change our perspective to want to change to that, suddenly you feel guilty. And suddenly you feel like the sense of being within yourself, like, how can I change now? How's it going to affect them? And all these negative starts to happen. That, again, is the self-talk of the same concept. It's just because you realize that you want to change that and get it out of the way, now suddenly it's all about what's going to happen to everybody else with the new you that's going to come in place. And remember one thing we teach about self and self-empowerment. You're empowering you from within you. And you can't control them. You need to take control of you. That's what empowerment is about. So when you get to that point and you start to feel that blame, you need to learn that I can actually deal with this. The whole idea to get rid of this negative self-talk is to be able to face that blame, that guilty feeling of you can't do this because what about them? You have to face that head on. And you have to be real with it and be realistic and say, this is not about them. This is actually about me. This is my self-talk. I need to get rid of it. It's hurting me. So I need to change it. I need to see it for what it really is and how it's destroying whatever I need to be. And I need to make it better. Because remember, we can't go back now and unsend those messages or press delete for all or delete for me. You can't do that. Those messages are there. You need to be real with what they are, where they've come from. I don't want them anymore and how I'm going to get rid of it. And we did talk about the strategies that you can do about getting rid of the inner critic and how to do that. Remember we said that you need to make that choice. Ultimately, Sister Mehreen, everything sits with each of us to make that decision and make the choice. That I'm going to face this and I'm going to make the decision and I'm going to stay loyal to me first. Because remember, that's where the impact lies. If you're never going to actually make yourself aware that these internal voices and internal beliefs that you have are actually a hindrance for you, how are you going to know that you need to change that negative that's there to a positive? So we need to, again, that awareness exercise comes. You really need to become more aware of you. Now become aware of how you talk to yourself. What exactly are these words that you tell yourself all the time? Now, for so many of us, we know that these truths and beliefs are so embedded, we're scared to get rid of it. But again, remember, I'm taking control of me not to hurt anybody else. I just don't want it to hurt me anymore. So I need to be able to take control of this. And it's not going to harm anybody when I'm going to be positive about myself. If anything, it's going to be better for everybody else. Remember, every time you have something that's negative talking to you, the reason it keeps having an effect like that, which is so negative, is because you're giving yourself loyalty to it. You're loyal to that negative self-talk. You're giving it loyalty and you're dedicating yourself to enacting that negativity in practice. And that's what we're trying to change. We need to stop that. So if you do a quick recap on what we said we're going to change it and how, the first thing I said is name it. And the second thing I said was to keep it outside of you. Call it a lie. Call it flat out. When your voice tells you these negative things, tell it it's a lie. Because remember, none of us want to live a lie. None of us want to speak the lie. We prefer to be in tune with the truth. And when you start to resonate with yourself as, I'm actually acting out of the truth, that little lie that's in your head that keeps lying to you, eventually goes and sits in a distance and slowly fades itself away. It's practice. It does work. So the whole idea is to make the choice, take this you can, and you will be able to make that difference for yourself, inshallah.
Inshallah. Now, Sister Mehreen, women, especially mothers, always have this thing of, doing things for others. I need to do this for them. I need to do that for them. And we forget about ourselves and looking out for ourselves and looking after ourselves. So how can we do that and put ourselves first before we decide to put our families first? Because at the end of the day, everyone else is putting themselves first and you are putting them first.
Absolutely. I think the key factor, though, for every mom, everyone that's running a home and every mother who's dealing with their child needs to understand their role and identify with it. Before you even became that mother, you were on your own. You were an individual. That individual is not were. You still are the individual. You just encompass a new role in your individuality. So again, it's about how you're perceiving yourself. Are you perceiving yourself only as the mother now? Because when you do that, your vision then becomes, I'm just a mother. But when you realize, actually, I'm me first, and I became a mother, then you still have you in. You realize I'm me first, and I became a wife and then a mother, you realize you're still in the equation. But when you take out you from everything, then you actually start to visualize that everything else is about them first before you. That's the first thing. The second thing I would really recommend to every mother is take a 5 minute out every night, or even a 2 minute out, and think of 3 to 5 things of every day that you've done, and list it as gratitude for you being you, because of you this happened. Because of you, this child got this done. Because of you, your husband got this done. Because of you, this was done for the house. Because give yourself 3 or 5 things a day that you do that makes things so good for them. And you're not actually doing it because of them. But 5 things that you're putting down in gratitude are to say gratitude for you being you. Because all of that got done because of who you were. And when you start to do that every day for yourself, you start to actually feel, I actually do have this. I am worthy. I give off a hell of a lot. I do this. And slowly you'll start to feel your role as you as an individual is key, and then you'll start to grow you for being the better of you in the future.
Hmm. And if you do for yourself, if you make yourself happy first, then you'll have energy to for everyone else.
Exactly.
You'll have more
Exactly.
time for them. You'll want to do more as long as you are
Yes.
happy, because I mean, you're going to put yourself first, and they are not thinking about you. They're only thinking
Yes.
about you when they need something to get done.
Of course. Of course.
Unfortunately, that's the truth.
Yes. But the change sits with you. If you change you and you start to become better for you and appreciate you, and somehow aura means a lot. How they sense things about you. You start to change how you feel about yourself. You start to change how you see yourself. If you start to change and implement your specific perspectives, you're changing on certain things. It doesn't have to hurt anybody around you, but if it's beneficial for you, these key people that are around you all the time will notice it. And it automatically has that catalyst effect of positiveness that radiates from you to them. So it doesn't when you and again it's all about you. Again, it's about you taking control of you. If there's 20 different things that each of these children want, halt. Give yourself a 2-minute breather. I know that all of you want this. You're not going to say it, but you know that you need to process this. Categorize, structure it for yourself. Wait, I need to take 2 seconds because I am going to actually fall if I carry on. Do you want to fall first? No. So why would you do that? So it's all about you. How am I going to change this? What can I do? You have some people out there who are very critical of, in a negative way, of us doing empowerment, for example, because they feel women, especially, um, become empowered and they become this disrespectful people and they don't want to do stuff anymore in their houses and stuff like that. It's not about that. It's about, firstly, we teach and we want our women, especially, to identify with who they are as individuals and grow that person first. Identify you, grow yourself, self-growth, develop yourself, self-development. Once you're doing these things and you empower you from within you, it automatically helps others around you to become better because you yourself give off different decisions in a clearer way, you speak in a different way, and that resonates with them in a different way. So changing you first will change those around you. That is what the key is, to start with you first. And that can happen.
No, indeed, it can happen. Just
Yeah.
start with you. Self-talk. It's all about you first. You came into this
Yes.
world alone, and you're going to leave this world alone, and you will be
Absolutely.
resurrected alone. So focus on yourself first before anyone else. Shukran so much for your time once again, Sister Mehreen.
Jazakallah so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was Sister Mehreen Mia Cassimjee, life coach and motivational speaker, talking to us about silencing the inner critic, self-talk, putting yourself first and positively talking to yourself, writing your affirmations, doing things that will boost your confidence, doing things that will motivate you, etc., etc. If you have any comments, questions, queries, or suggestions, send them to us on WhatsApp. The number is 061 766 0355. You can also send them to us on our Facebook